Our data shows the median gym owner earns $61,000 per year, but our recent top 10 leaderboard featured gym owners who earn between $189,000 and $357,000 per year. Let's be clear, this is not business gross. This is not even profit. This is what the owner takes home. It's mind-blowing, right? So what's the difference between gyms that pay their owners $60K and gyms that pay $189,000 or more? You're going to find out today on Run a Profitable Gym. I'm your host, Mike Warkentin. My guest today is Ryan McStockard. He runs Fit to Live in Michigan. He's also a two-brain mentor, and he earned a spot on that top 10 leaderboard. He's going to tell you how he did it. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. Excited to be here. Long-time listener, first-time caller, so dream come true.
And it couldn't be a better show than the Net Owner Benefit Leaderboard. This is one of the best ones that we do, and it's really cool to see what gym owners are taking home and how they do it. So I'm going to set the table. You know, people who are blown away by these numbers, they see $189,000, $357,000. Not an easy business. Talk to me about the lowest point you've ever had financially as a gym owner. Like, where did you start to build to this great level?
Yeah, well, I think there's lowest points and then there's lowest points financially, and sometimes they coincide. I think it was Kelly Starrett who said it best. You know, we're all digging a trench, and some days we get buried, other days we poke our heads out, and other days we make progress. And, you know, I've been fortunate enough the last few years to really make some progress and to have a good team behind me. So I can't not shout them out to preface this. As far as like the lowest point financially, you know, I think the go-to is going to the pandemic. You know, in 2019, by our standards then, we had a pretty good year. And then, as we know, 2020 took the wind out of everyone's sails, and it was, you know, pure survival mode. And there were certainly times where we went really lean on the business and bare bones. And, you know, there were months where, you know, there was no income coming to me personally. And, you know, it was like just keeping the gym alive was a win. So I think that was, you know, the lowest point. We did a lot of things to keep our spirits up and just help however we could. But yeah, I mean, financially, that was certainly the lowest point.
So essentially 2020, you're looking at like zero income at times because of the pandemic. You're not allowed to operate. And then, you know, gyms all over the world were in various states of dealing with government regulations and all that. But it was a low point for the industry as a whole. And everybody had to rebuild. And I was in the same boat where 2019, things were kind of had some momentum going and then just hard stop, trying to figure out just how to survive. So, you know, listeners, if you're out there saying, you know, my income isn't great right now, I can never ascend to these heights, you know, Ryan is proof that you can, because you came out of a dark place and earned a spot on this leaderboard. Other people are in the same boat. And again, it takes the average two-brain mentee 25 months to get to $100,000 net owner benefit, regardless of starting point. That means if your gym is on fire right now, on average, in 25 months, with the help of a mentor and the right tactics, you could reach $100K net owner benefit. Some people have done that in less than a year. So depending on where you are, those are the numbers, but that is hard data. And Ryan's got a whole bunch of data that he's going to share with you guys. Before we get into that, quick summary of your gym so everyone knows what you're running here. Where did you open? You know, when did you open? What are your revenue streams? How big? How many staff? Give me the 411, 60 seconds, your business.
60 seconds. All right.
Or longer, whatever it takes.
Clock starts now. Yeah. So I've been the owner of Fit to Live since 2014, when I purchased the gym from two previous owners. They kind of started the gym as a hobby, and I just got more and more involved. And it was my ultimate goal to be an entrepreneur and to have my own business. So I made them an offer they couldn't refuse, which, looking back on it, wasn't that much. And, you know, we had some good progress in the 6 years before the pandemic, but nothing like I've experienced with Two Brain in the last 5 years. We are a functional fitness gym.
Sure.
You know, our biggest revenue stream is big group. You know, we have classes of up to 18 and 45 classes a week. So, you know, that's about 54% of our revenue. And then as of the last 3 to 4 years, we've really pumped up the personal training, high value side of things in the business. Yeah. So we've done a lot of one-on-one PT. We have a nutrition and wellness coaching program. We've dabbled into like some corporate semi-private and things like that. So really, you know, at this point, the group model is pretty well-oiled machine, and we've just been pumping up the high value coaching on that side.
Big facility?
It depends on your definition of big.
Yeah. What do you got?
Yeah, we're about 5,500 square feet.
Sizable, but not overly big. Yeah.
Upper mezzanine area puts us over 6,000.
And staff people, you got a lot of them or a few, or what do you do? How do you run?
Yeah, we have 10 coaches on staff. Yeah, so we've got one, I would say, full-time plus. He works more than I would like him to, but he loves it. And then I've got two solid, part-timers who work anywhere between 25 and 35 hours a week. And then the rest is anywhere between 5 and 15 hours, coaches.
Okay. If you were to guesstimate, and I didn't ask you for this to prepare this, but maybe big group, what percentage of revenue do you think that kicks in? Do you have an idea?
Well, I have an exact idea because one of my takeaways with the numbers here is, you got to know them. And I think that was maybe, we could go back to the first question of what my lowest point was financially. I was like, well, I don't know. I was pretty ignorant back in the early days. But now I know. So, big group for us last year was 54% of our revenue.
Okay.
Personal training was 32. Our on-ramp comes in at 6%. So you could kind of put some of that towards the PT as we're doing one-on-one with that. Nutrition's 4%, and then everything else is the smaller stuff, retail, workshops, and kids programs.
Yeah, so a few solid revenue streams. One of those is kind of the cash cow, but then you've got these other ones that are also super strong. And did you start, was it just big group when you started?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. We did have an on-ramp. It was pretty bare bones, 3 sessions, get them through as quick as you can and into class. But yeah, we were closer to like 90% of our revenue was from big group, if not more in certain years.
So
pretty
listeners, I'll give you a tip.
I would say.
Exactly. And I did the exact same thing. And luckily we had an on-ramp that was 8 sessions, and we held them a little bit longer, but still we were just big group, and it cost me a lot of money because I didn't realize this sooner. Listeners, if you want to make a big income jump, I would suggest if you run a big group gym, which is just group classes, CrossFit classes, boot camp, whatever you want to call it, whatever you do, add personal training and add a semi-private training, something like that. You can even just start with one of them. Obviously, it's a good plan to just start small, but adding a high value service where people can get more attention is going to help you a ton. And the transition point between those is like a hybrid service where you're running group plus one personal training session a month. If I had offered that back in the day in say 2010 or something like that, the revenue would have piled up for years. I never knew that was even possible, but Chris Cooper's talked about this many, many times. And we have Two Brain, step-by-step plans to help you do this. Adding a hybrid program, adding personal training, adding semi-private training, small group training, all these high-value services tacked onto a big group model equal a lot more revenue. That doesn't mean you get rid of big group. It just means you have other streams. Not all the streams. You don't need every single thing. You just need several strong streams. 3 of them is a good idea, something like that. Some people do it with kids. Some people do it with seniors. Lots of ways to do it, but think outside that big group box and good things will happen. Now, how did you find about a Two Brain and get a mentor? Because you said things changed quite a bit when that happened. So what did you run into the whole thing, and what happened once you started?
Yeah, I think, again, similar story. I was a longtime follower of Chris Cooper. I think all the way back to 2017, 2016, I can remember, Googling, how do I do this? How do I do that? And the more Chris started to write, the more he would pop up and planted the seed in my brain of like, oh, this Chris Cooper guy might know a thing or two about being frustrated in a fitness business. And of course, like most of us, I did not take action right away. I, started reading the books. I think I read the original Two Brain unedited version of the book, which I loved. It was a really raw and relatable journey to what I was going through, and I think that's really what hooked me. And then it wasn't until the pandemic, 2020, and honestly, towards the end of the pandemic, I had extra time to be at home and think a little bit more and just take the big picture view. And I said, all right, I'm going to come out of the pandemic, and we're going to do this right. We're going to make the hard changes, and we're going to be different. And part of that was doing a rebrand. And like most of us, I needed an excuse to get out of my own way and not be so stubborn. And I used that honestly as an excuse to get started with Two Brain. I said, well, I need help with the rebrand. And very quickly I found out that the rebrand was the least amount of the things that I needed help with. It was sales processes and marketing and knowing numbers and all of the things that we know that can make a great gym. So that's kind of my journey. And then I got started in 2021, officially early 2021.
Was it hard to pull the trigger on that? You said there were months in the pandemic where you're not taking income, and obviously all gyms are struggling to some degree during that, to make an investment into fixing things. Was that a tough call?
Certainly. Coming out of the pandemic, not a lot of money coming in, and to invest in yourself with, sure, there's guarantees, but it wasn't a guarantee that it was going to fix things and make a difference. But looking back on it, certainly, I can't imagine where I would be if I didn't make that decision. No. But I got to the point where my back was up against the wall, and I said, we're either going to do this right or not at all. And so for me, it was, I wouldn't even call it a Hail Mary. I would call it like, we have to rewrite the playbook a little bit and try it differently.
Yeah, and the pandemic offered a good opportunity for that because, things kind of shut down. Everything was, changing in the entire world, and you were able to say with your business, now's a good time to rip it apart, put it back together, and again, and rebuild. There are a lot of gym owners I've spoken to that took that opportunity, fixed a ton of stuff, and came out stronger. And Chris Cooper wrote about that, called it the surge. There were a lot of gyms after the pandemic, and I'm going to guess you were one of them, that just fixed a bunch of stuff, changed some things, did some major rebranding and projects, and then rocket ship takes off because you've eliminated a lot of things that were holding you back. So I'll ask you about that. Like, how did things start changing? What were the major things that you did? You mentioned a couple already. Like, what were your "this is working" moments?
Yeah, I mean, like back to your last statement there is like I would work 12 hours, 14 hours, 16-hour days. Like, man, I'm really making a difference. And then I'd get home and I'd have a lot of entrepreneurial regrets, like, oh, but that name, or oh, that system didn't work the way I wanted it to, and I was just frustrated. And so it was just more and more of that. And finally, like you said, in the pandemic, it was like, okay, we're gonna do this differently. So there's a lot, honestly, looking back on what we changed. But I know I said the rebrand was the thing I started with Two Brain for, and it was the least of our worries. But that really, I'm a visionary, and that really got me in the mindset of like, okay, if we can start over, turn a new leaf with a new name and a story that I can get behind, that everyone else on my team can get behind, and our members can get behind, that just allowed me to make harder decisions, because it was a matter of fact at that point. Like, hey, we're different now. Here's the facelift, but here's the, structural changes that we're making because we're doing this better and we're doing it differently. So all the way from, let's actually provide an on-ramp that has the right goals in mind, not just get them through it quickly and throw them into class. It's how do we start their journey off right, show them that we care, and give them the best thing that they need to set them up for success. It was marketing, as far as intentionality with what we're doing with all of the content that we're putting out into the world, with our sales process. Let's actually sit them down in an interview, consultation. Let's really get to their emotional why of why they need us and how we can help them. And then it was, ultimately getting some of the players that were already on my team more involved and leveling them up with what they wanted to do. And then getting other, coaches and team members on board who wanted to, row towards that mission. So those are some of the biggest ones that I can think of.
I mean, so it looks to me like what you did was you started right at the studs essentially, and you just like put everything back together again and built the structure like solid. And that was, if you were like me, you bought a gym, I started one, but I started it very badly. There's just a lot of stuff that had just built up that was cluttered and just not in the right spot. Things weren't working properly, no processes. Like, I didn't have a staff playbook at all. I had to build one and then I let it rot. There's just a lot of stuff that needed to get cleaned up. It sounds like you pulled it all down in the pandemic. Yeah, go ahead.
The quote that comes to my mind a lot is Chris Cooper has said it, but it's, we spend the first 6 years of ownership doing the same things and kind of banging our head against the wall and expecting different results. And I can tell you, ever since 2021, it's flipped the script. So I'm no longer banging my head on the walls as much.
And then, when you do it right, I mean, that's the thing. We bang our heads on the wall. We don't have anyone to tell us, hey, stop, maybe try it like this. You won't be so frustrated. I did the same thing until I got like, just do this. Like, your rates are too low. Here's how you improve them. Like, oh, all of a sudden I'm making extra $5,000 extra a month because I improved my rates, which I should have done 5 years sooner, but I didn't know how, right? It's the simplest stuff like that. So you obviously took fundamental control of your business, rebuilt everything. And then after your foundation is in place, you start scaling up a little bit by getting some staff members, teaching them how to be part of the business, because now the business isn't on fire. You can actually tell them, here's how you do it properly. Here's how you do a sales meeting. Here's how you're now in charge of this delegation, the whole thing, and it spins up. And so, listeners, that's part of the Two Brain Mentorship Plan, starting with just fundamental stuff, getting your business in a stable place, and then starting to scale up a little bit. And then the third stage after all that, we call it tinker. That's where like you're making about $100,000 a year. And we look at trying to get to like $1 million net owner or $1 million net worth, and then you can start really scaling and building. It's kind of the fun part of entrepreneurship, but there are different stages of it. Wherever you're at, we can push you through it. So you got to have revenue and profit to pay yourself well. So you talked about where it comes from. What was the first stream you put in after group training? You said, was it personal training at On-Ramp?
Yeah, certainly. It was a higher ticket offering with our on-ramp. We originally just offered one option. We started offering multiple options. Yep. And I think, what personal training did for us, and a more beefy on-ramp, higher value on-ramp, so that allowed us to help more. It wasn't just a one-trick pony of like, oh, you don't want to do group? We'll do group. It was, hey, no problem. Let's take it slow in on-ramp. Let's maybe continue this PT thing that's working great for you. Let's roll you over into a monthly, personal training membership. So that was a big part of just doing more of what we had discovered that we were great at. And it's just a lot more of the valuable coaching that we offer. And that's a big part of our business. It's group or it's higher value one-on-one, two-on-one, three-on-one coaching.
Do you have a lot of members? Like, is it a big number?
Well, again, that's all relative. If you're comparing me to like Rune over in Europe, he's got like 1 million members. So
one of our other leaderboard regulars. Yeah,
that's right. No, we're right around 184 members. Okay. Yep, and that is a combination of the group and personal training. So we've got about 155 on the big group, and then the rest is personal training. And then we also have nutrition clients that you could add to that number if you want to.
So not a huge number though. Like we're not talking like 400 members, right? So it's listeners, the chasing 400 members is hard. You have to have an amazing marketing plan. You have to have an amazing retention plan. You have to have sometimes more space, more equipment, more everything. It can be a difficult model. And originally that was something we all chased as CrossFit gym owners or functional fitness gym owners. Lots of members. What I should have done, instead of selling $110 memberships to 400 people, whatever I was trying to do, I should have tried for like 205 and 150 to start. So $205 a month for 150 members. That would have been amazing first targets. I could have scaled that likely into $100,000 net owner benefit myself. And then I could have changed things further if I wanted. So obviously, Ryan, your ARM is going to be probably a very good number.
Yes, 270. Again, it's all relative.
There you go.
And what I didn't mention is, personal training makes up 36% of our revenue, but we also have a lot of members that are in group that do a hybrid option that I don't count towards, our monthly personal training members, clients. And that just beefs up, like you said, the average revenue per member, but it also allows us to do a lot less work everywhere. It's really true. Like more money, more problems. It's like more head count. There's a lot more headaches and problems. And, when you have to replace 20 members from a high churn rate every month, it's a lot of work. So I've chosen to go the opposite route.
And I like that one too. I'm not saying, listeners, that you should not chase larger amounts of members. It's a mistake to chase a huge member count if you don't have the systems and processes to do it. We work with lots of gyms that have huge member counts. We're talking like 400, 500 members. They can do it, but it requires a different level of entrepreneurship than managing, 150 clients, which is that's challenging, but we can teach you how to do it fast. If you want to scale up, that can be taught as well, but it's different. As Chris has said, the thing that gets you to 150 clients isn't the thing that gets you to 250 or 1,000. Like they're just very, very different mindsets. Wherever you're at in your journey, we can help you with that. But I would advise you, if you're starting out or if you're looking to grow without adding a ton of members, it's these high value services. And they're, Ryan's laid them out: personal training, hybrid memberships, small group training, semi-private training. These things they don't take a ton of space. Like one of our mentors, Daniel Purrington, out in, I believe it's Oregon, he's got, I think it's a very small gym. I think it's like 2,500 or 3,500 square feet or something like that. And he's got these tiny spaces in that gym where he runs semi-private training, but his rate per hour is incredible. And he's not serving a ton of people. He's just serving the right people at a high rate. Does that work for your space, Ryan? Like you have a decent sized facility, 5,500 square feet, but I imagine adding some personal training and 18-person group classes, it fits pretty well for you.
Yeah, it does. The way our space is laid out, we've got about 4,500 square feet of main floor, and then we have a ton of these brick and mortar offices. But we also have some pockets, kind of like you hinted at with Dan's setup. We have some pockets where we can do some private training. So we have a room that's about 700 square feet. That's our PT room. And then we've actually expanded, and we've turned PT spaces out of every nook and cranny. And, that goes back to maximizing our square footage and return on our square footage. So definitely.
Yeah, I had the same thing. Our gyms were very similar. Mine was about 6,000 and I had an office area in front. And toward the end of the beginning of the pandemic, my plan was to start ripping stuff out of there that was unused space, like the athletes lobby and stuff like that. And I was going to put in a small group or a personal training studio in there. And it would have been a really big jump for the business. We ultimately ended up closing that space, but I wasted a lot of square footage over the years. And if I had maximized that with personal training, what would have happened? Would have been
That's exactly right. I mean, at one point we had a kids room. I think we had a couple of equipment rooms that didn't need to be equipment rooms. And you flip the script and figure out how to make more money out of that space.
Yeah. And so that's the thing. Have you been in the same space for the entirety of your business?
Yeah, we've been fortunate, knock on wood. Yeah, and because of that, we are at a pretty good average square footage price in our area.
Yeah.
And we were able to pay all through the pandemic. And so we're on good graces with our landlord, and there's some stability there, is the takeaway. Yeah.
But still, it's common to either get too much space too fast, misuse space, or just jump around sometimes because you don't know what kind of model you're gonna run. So you've done a really good job of like starting out with 5,500 is great for a big group, but then saying, how can I maximize this? So again, listeners, if you're looking for ways to like make more without, adding expenses, what can I do in the existing space that I have? And there are just incredible things that gym owners create in tiny spaces. Again, I mentioned Dan, like I can't remember what his room is. It's something like 450 square feet or something like that. And he pulls like huge money per hour out of that thing because he runs it really well.
Very
and again,
efficiently.
yeah. And he doesn't have everyone doing like sled pushes and muscle ups and, barbell snatches.
The programming
and stuff like that,
matches
obviously.
the space. Yeah.
Right. But this is all the business model, and that's the rebrand you talked about and so forth. So there's all these things that come together when I talk to a gym owner like you who's running a great business that's producing a lot of profit and income. It's always all these interconnected things. And it sounds intimidating at the beginning, but if you go back to the beginning of the story, listeners, Ryan started with fixing stuff. Rebranding. My sales process isn't good enough. My on-ramp is non-existent. I've got all these things I got to put in place, and away we go. Okay, so we're going to dig into the one specific thing that earned Ryan a spot on the leaderboard. That's net owner benefit. Sometimes it's salary dividends, a combination of other things that the business pays for. Ryan, how does this number work for you, and how has it evolved over time?
Yeah, well, I think to start with your second half of that question is how did it evolve? If we look at my net owner benefit progression in 2021, it was a question mark because I didn't really understand why it was important or what was made up of a net owner benefit. And really, ultimately, when we talk about all of the metrics that make up a healthy business, net owner benefit is what it's all about. What does that business provide for you? What does it provide for you personally? And does it get you closer to your perfect day? Mm-hmm. And ultimately, that net owner benefit and tying in effective hourly rate is the secret sauce. So in 2021, I didn't know. And shout out to my mentor, Brian Strump, who really had a stern talking to me. It's like, hey, we got to figure this stuff out.
It's the only way Brian talks.
That's right. And he gave me a lot of Post-it notes and said, start learning the numbers. And here's a spreadsheet. He actually did say that. And so that really planted the seed for me of like, oh, wow, how much can I run through the business legally? Talk to your accountants, of course. Yep. But it's not just the cash I'm taking out. Yes, that's a big percentage of what makes up my net owner benefit, but I've gotten creative over the years. Shout out to the Tinker program for helping me diversify that way and minimize how much taxes I'm paying. But it makes up, obviously, my salary as an LLC, but we do function as an S Corp or file as an S Corp. So then I also take distributions. So I pay myself the minimum amount, the livable wage for the salary, take quarterly distributions or more. And then from there, Section 179, I run my car through the business as a company car that pays for gas, maintenance, shirts, shoes. Yes, nanos do count towards professional attire, meals, travel, and a big one that's often missed, professional education. So reinvesting in myself through the business is one of the best ways to save on taxes while leveling yourself up educationally, because you cannot get taxed on that, and that's something that stays with you forever. So long answer, I started tracking it, and I got creative with how I could maximize what the business paid for me legally for my personal side of things.
Yeah, and whatever jurisdiction you're in or country, do check your tax laws. A call to an accountant can save you a lot of headaches. Don't just assume that I can do this thing. Check. And there's a lot of stuff that you can do very legally. You should pay the government every cent that it is owed, but not a cent more. And there's lots of stuff that you can put through the business. And the point of this whole question is showing that there are different ways to pay yourself as a sole owner operator. There's different things available to you as a corporation. There's lots of ways to do things, salary, dividends. And again, like Ryan said, there's lots of expenses. Business, cell phone, internet, all sorts of different things, vehicle payments sometimes. There's lots of stuff that can go through the business. And if you think about it and talk to a professional, that can definitely help you out. The Tinker program that Ryan mentioned is exactly set up for this kind of thing. So the Tinker program, that once you get all the fires are out in your business, things are stable. You're still maybe working on your business, but it's paying you a good amount of money. It's stable. Nothing is burning. You have some extra time to start thinking about things and say what's next. That Tinker program is the third stage of Two Brain Mentorship. And that's where you can really get some peer support, some expert stuff, and start thinking about scaling up big time. So I remember Lisa Palmer, who is our Tinker lead for Europe, talking about a conversation that happened in one of the recent meetups, and she said something like, I think it was $84,000 someone figured out they had overpaid in taxes through a conversation that happened in the room with another tinker. Did you happen to be present for that?
I don't believe I was.
Yeah, it might have been Europe then, yeah.
Those conversations happen every single meetup on the breakout calls. I mean, there are plenty of returns on the Tinker program, and that's a good example of one.
Yeah, and the other example is, two tinkers talking about something and one saying, I've done what you're thinking about, don't do this part, do this thing. And they're like, oh, I saved myself $40,000. So
yeah, oftentimes the mistakes you avoid save you the most money.
Yeah. And so your experience in that program, was that like rocket fuel when you've got, you start this thing and everything's going pretty well, but then you get into this room with a bunch of really elite gym owners and there's a lot of good ideas going around, a lot of leadership. Did that just rocket fuel for your net owner benefit?
Absolutely. Short answer is yes. I went into Tinker thinking I needed fancy chasing squirrels, and what I got out of it was let's pour more into the golden goose and do more of what I'm great at and love, which was let's build this business up. And back to the earlier point in our conversation of the mindset, if you believe it and you see what others are doing at a higher level than you will inevitably, even 1%, make 1% gains towards getting closer to what those people are doing. So that was huge. Just getting in the room with people who had done it before and were doing things greater than me.
How many hours a week do you work on your business? Do you know?
Oh, well, I try to keep it to 80 hours or less in a month. I do have another business and I do have 4 kids at home, and that is certainly like a third business, the most important one. And I think, taking all of that away, my goal really is to not miss family dinners and to not miss weekend memories. And I've done pretty darn good at prioritizing that. But I try to keep it to 20 to 30 hours a week in the gym business.
So not a huge amount, but still choosing to work on your gym business.
And that's a choice. Yep.
Yeah. And there's a misconception sometimes about the Tinker program where it's like, I'm not working on my gym anymore. I'm going to do something else. A lot of Tinkers work on their gym a lot. And like Ryan has said, you realize that this gym can be a very, very powerful economic machine. And so you really make it run properly. Other gym owners, they'll do more of a hands-off thing and they'll get a GM or something like that. And then they might scale up to other things, replicating gyms, or they might get into like real estate investing, crypto investing. I've seen people open distilleries and start sports beverage companies. There's all sorts of crazy things that people can do there, but with a lot of guidance and leadership and strategic plans, as opposed to, Ryan said, chasing squirrels. That's very common. The Tinker program is very much what's the next best thing for you and how do we do it properly? And so if you guys are looking to that, there is an access point. If you are a very successful gym owner right now and your business is, in a very good state, there is a way to get right into that Tinker program, but we would evaluate you first because the idea is we want to make sure that we're not skipping any steps and you have a clear foundation. The best way to do that is to book a call with our Tinker leads, and I will put their email addresses in the show notes for you so that you guys can contact them if that's something you want to do. If you're not at that level, you can get there in about 25 months or less by following the things that Ryan, as a mentor, will tell you how to do. So Ryan, I want to switch hats for a second. Instead of gym owner, put on your mentor hat. Let's talk about how you use the experience that you've had coming from a very difficult period to a very good period. How do you help gym owners pay themselves more now? Like, what's your advice to a listener who's listening and saying, these numbers are incredible, I can never hit them, I'm struggling? What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, I would say you're right with that mindset. You're absolutely right. If you believe it won't happen, it probably won't. And that's a story I've told myself over the years. And you have to, you really have to believe it, but you have to be ready to accept that you're responsible. It is your business. You're responsible for what happens and what doesn't happen in your business. And so ultimately, you're responsible for the change that needs to happen. And that starts from the top, and then naturally it trickles down, coaches and members and everything else, and leads all the way down the funnel. So that is that's huge. I don't want to harp on some of my mentees, but it's like nothing ultimately will change unless you're willing to change. And, I'll preface all of that with saying, it doesn't matter what my experiences are. We have to back our decisions with data, which is one thing that was a blind spot for me beginning as a gym owner, I was like, I don't need the numbers. I can wing it. I'm good enough. And yeah, to an extent, but then you start banging your head against the wall. So without the data and the hive mind of what really works and doesn't, kind of just guessing. And so that's always number one. Let's not only know the numbers, but let's really get intimate with your numbers and see where you're at now. Let's see what's worked for us in our data set, and let's make some decisions and hard conversations and make some change.
Yeah. And one of the things I really like is, you use the example of, you've got a gym and it says, I want to do this. I want to earn more, whatever it is. The mentors will look at the numbers and figure out which are the weakest ones and then prescribe an exact plan to fix them. And a good one is like saying, I want to earn more. I need more members. But the mentor looks and says, your length of engagement, your retention is very poor. You are bleeding so many members out that it costs you this much money in advertising just to break even, plus all your staffing, plus all the time, and you bleed them out every time. So all you're doing is you're running members through the sausage machine, and it's just they're coming out the back end faster. You can put them in the front. Let's fix your retention first. Okay, so let's solve that problem. Here's how we do it. These are the exact steps. Fixed. Now the retention is solved. Let's look at your rates. Those are kind of too low by maybe $40. So we're going to put an exact rate increase plan step by step. Boom, average revenue per member is up. You still have the same number of clients, but you're losing fewer, you're holding them longer, and your average revenue per member is up. Now we're going to fix all the other systems with staffing and operations and all that other stuff. Wait a second, now we can start scaling up a little bit because we can run some ads. We don't have to spend a ton of money. We get these people coming in, they stay longer at a higher rate. And you see how this snowball goes. And that's kind of what it sounds like you've done in your business, Ryan. You fixed a lot of stuff and it just starts to spiral.
Mike, you hit the nail on the head. I think that is our secret metric that, we throw out high head counts. I've got 1,000 members. I've got a $700 arm. That's great. Don't get me wrong. But let's throw out the length of engagement. And for us, that's 42 months.
Yeah, it's almost 4 years.
So you take that arm with the leg, and our lifetime value is pretty great compared to industry standards. And, that's the other thing that we really went all in on. We did pretty well with it before the pandemic, but man, we went all in on it, was the client journey and celebrating every little thing, creating powerful moments from our milestone program to our committed clubs to just celebrating every single part of that journey. And that has really turned into our marketing plan as well. So.
Retention is a marketing plan, right? Because if you don't have to replace people, you don't have to market as much, right? They're just so interconnected. 42 months, the industry average sometimes are as bad as 8. Sometimes they're in the 2s and 3s. If you're talking about January joiners who are gone by February, a good first target is in the 20s, low 20s. We see 2-brain gym owners hitting that kind of stuff. You get into the 4s, all of a sudden, the 40s, everything becomes simple because you look at your lifetime value and you're like, I can spend this much on an ad because this person is going to come in. They're going to stay likely for this long at this rate. It's a huge win. I spend $200 to get someone in the door. They stay for 4 years at $270. Do the math, right? It's an incredible thing. You said it was your client journey and celebration that did it. Was that the biggest thing, or did you do anything else there that really improved retention?
There's a lot. Certainly nailing down, like I said, the on-ramp of what do we really need to set these members up for? And it was really, we need to set them up for consistency and for life. It's not, hey, can we get them to do a muscle up in 10 days? Can we teach them the nuances of a snatch versus a clean? It's, hey, let's get them moving. Let's build on that progression and that positivity, and let's really get them connected into our community. And then we, after that first graduation point, we get them connected with other coaches. So let's have a nutrition wellness consultation. Let's start that conversation of helping more that way. Maybe they start with nutrition wellness coaching, and then the results really start to snowball. And then let's really make sure they're confident and comfortable going into that next step in big group if that's what they want. And then we start to celebrate the heck out of them. We've got milestone, the first one's at 50, they get a tile on the board, and then at 100 they get a t-shirt, and 250 a t-shirt. And I'm really proud of this, but our biggest accomplishment in the last couple months, our first member just hit 3,000 classes, and he did it in 11 years, the fastest anyone's ever done it. And what we did a party, we had a custom t-shirt, we put his own workout and plaque up, and we celebrated the heck out of it. But like you said, we wouldn't be able to do that if we didn't know that we were going to keep them that long, right? So we're willing to invest, knowing that it'll pay off with length of engagement and lifetime value.
Yeah, and it's funny because Chris has said that on-ramps used to be looked at as a barrier to entry. They're actually a barrier to exit. If you take the time to get someone into your facility properly, meaning here's how you park, Here's where you put your stuff. Here's how we do a basic deadlift. Here's how it goes. Here's how you sign up for membership. Like all the stuff that we just blew past in 2009, 2010. You tell them exactly how to find success in your facility. You teach them everything they need to do and bring them in slowly. They're going to stay longer. And that's just industry data fact. It's not made up. It is not a barrier. An on-ramp is not a barrier to entry. It is a barrier to exit, because if people in their first 90 days are brought in properly, they stay longer. Again, in the Two Brain Toolkit, the first 90 days, the client journey is dialed in. We teach mentees exactly how to do that. So if you're like, I don't know how to help people get started in my gym, that is available and we can help you with that. Ryan, as we close this out, I want to give listeners something that they might be able to do. So you got some great experience moving from big group only into a place where you've got all these different revenue streams strongly creating revenue for you. Big group gym owners out there listening right now wants to earn more. What would you suggest they might do in the services category to earn more?
I mean, you threw me up the alley-oop here, but it's an easy answer. It's give your members more high-value coaching, help them more. And I don't know about everyone else, but I was never a good learner in a lecture hall of 200 people or correlate that to a 20-person class. There's a lot of blind spots that we can help more effectively with some tutor time, some one-on-one coaching, even semi-private to a 1-3-on-1, 4-on-1. It's a big difference. So get involved with offering something that members need, which for the vast majority is high-value private coaching.
What's your PT rate?
Yeah, right now we're at 85 per session. Yeah.
$50 is too low, listeners. 85 is great. That's something you should look at. So here's what I'll do. I'll tell you on your way out, if you do not currently offer personal training at your gym, you just do big group, make a list of 5 clients who are struggling with something. You know your clients. It's going to be double unders, muscle ups, whatever it is in your facility and the things that you teach, things that they're struggling with in the group classes. You know that they're frustrated with it. Call those 5 people. Hey, I just started a new program. It's group membership with 1 extra personal training session where we're going to work one-on-one on your specific problem. I've got a plan in place already for you. I know I can help you with this. Do you want to meet up next week to work on this? Try that. See what happens. Some of those people are going to sign up for what we're now calling a hybrid membership. And all of a sudden your ARM goes from whatever your group price is to group price plus personal training price equals bigger number, which profit margin. And you spent nothing but 5 minutes calling this person. That is a simple, simple plan. And again, we can teach you how to scale that up. It'll give you one actionable thing to take out of here today. Try that. If you want to go further, you can book a call to work with someone just like Ryan in the show notes, and we'll talk to you about how to do that exactly. Ryan, thanks for coming here and sharing all the details from your business. I really appreciate it, especially coming from like 2020, not paying yourself to a spot on the top 10 leaderboard. Congrats on that.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you having me.
My pleasure. Ryan and others like him will be on this show regularly to teach you how to run a better business. This is Run a Profitable Gym. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Mike Warkentin. Please subscribe for more episodes just like this.